Hey, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. We're going to check in with Amanda to see what she's got going on. And right after that, I want to get right back into wrapping up the show with Scott Pruitt and the EPA that we opened up with this morning. Amanda, what do you have happening this morning? What's going on?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. At least I can I can reciprocate when asked a question, but go ahead.
Okay, so I came into the thing across Facebook, and this is actually in Deerfield Village, Illinois. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I've never heard of it. But I came across this article. It's a Daily Wire article, and one of them was rewritten by Joe Miller. And he says, by the Daily Wire, rulemakers in the village of Deerfield, Illinois have voted unanimously to ban semi-automatic rifles, along with pistols and shotguns with certain features, as well as magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. The ban passed Monday night outlaws any weapon in the village leaders deem assault weapons, including AR-15, but also banned semi-automatic rifles, pistols, shotguns with certain features. So basically they are banning all guns. This is our fight. This is quoted, "This is our fight, this is our generation's fight, and we're going to keep fighting," one Deerfield High School student, Ariella Karich, said at a public hearing according to ABC 7 in Chicago. "Thank you for being a part of that." The new ordinance takes effect June 13th. Residents who have banned weapons after that date face up to $1,000 in fines per day. So if you are caught with a weapon, they will check and make sure that you get rid of that weapon. If you don't, each day that you don't, you're fined up to $1,000 a day. The new ordinance was modeled on a ban put in place in Highland Park, Illinois, which went to the United States Supreme Court. The High Court let a lower court ruling allow the ban stand.
Well, they will have probably on their sign when you go into town, they'll probably have a little tag that says "safest town in America." That's what, I don't know, that's what they want to lead you to believe. If you can get rid of all guns, you could live in this utopia that is so safe, and everybody will sing Kumbaya, and they'll have, you know, and they'll give out bags of marshmallows and fire.
Can you explain to me?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what to say when I hear stuff like that.
No. So we're gonna pretend that the Second Amendment does not exist. Can you explain to me how you would even go about intervening this?
Pretend something doesn't exist? Do you realize we could do a whole show on what they want you to pretend does not exist in this world? The realities of the world. I mean, yeah, I understand the Second Amendment.
So this town's planning on turning into Pleasantville?
There you go. Black and white. It'll be black and white.
No, really. How do you begin to intervene this?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm just in shock. I can't even believe. We're just going to pretend in this town specifically that the Second Amendment
does not exist. So yeah. I tell you what, we'll have to send in Yosemite Sam. And that's all I know, and you have no idea who that is.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. You kids don't know. Anyhow. Okay, thank you for that. I hate to be rude and push you off the screen there. I have to have a couple more minutes for the Scott Pruitt story before we close. Thank you very much, Amanda. Every day, Amanda looks up a little something that is unusual or taking place or violates our constitutional rights. It's happening somewhere in the heartland that nobody else wants to talk about or bring up. Now, Scott Pruitt, now let me explain something here. Put his picture back up. They want rid of him. And I could give you reason after reason. This is the biggest target on the biggest back in Washington, D.C. that they want rid of the biggest, one of the biggest bureaucracies, agencies. The West Virginia coal miners do not want rid of Scott Pruitt. The list goes on, okay, and on, all right? But environmentalists are dangerous people. Now, I'm sorry, don't get mad, but some of them are very, very dangerous. And they will stop at all costs. Here's what Scott Pruitt ended. is there's a policy that was called sue and settle. All right? And it was it's one of the top swamp corruption policies there is. It's called sue and settle. So let me just put it in a box, and everybody can tell me I'm wrong, and that's not officially how it works, but I'm going to put it in a box of what I call understanding. The box of understanding. You have the first team deployed to find all of your violations. All of your EPA violations. They're deployed. Then immediately they come back with their research. And that's when the team of lawyers and all of your violations. Big corporations get fined millions of dollars. You will see a headline, corporation fine, largest fine in this area in 40 years for a corporation, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. And then you would get their team of lawyers that would sue you. And then they send in the team that says, hey, you're being sued by the EPA. You're looking at $40 million in fines. We can settle this thing. I'm serious. It's almost exactly like, a mob movie. The Cosa Nostra, The Godfather. The list goes on. Hey, you got a guy comes in. Guido. I can settle this thing. I can get it out of your way. That might sound joking, but that's what happens. I can, I know a guy. I can, we can work something out. Let's settle this. We don't want to go to court. You don't want your stockholders to have to show your stockholders that you paid a $40 million fine. Okay, how do I settle this? I just want to keep on working and moving on. How do I settle this? Here's a list that we have comprised of charities. Let's just say you donate $1 million to this charity and $1 million to that charity. You've just saved $38 million. They're liberal activist charities. Now that's called putting it in the understanding box. And a lot of people will attack me and say, that's not exactly how it happens. True. It was called sue and settle. They come out, they fine you millions. They find all these problems wrong with your projects, that you violated all these EPA regulations. Next thing you know, the lawyers come. The next thing you know, they say, hey, let's sit down and talk. Next thing you know, you hear the word, hey, we can settle this. The next thing you know, they give you a list of places where you can make a donation and this could go away. Scott Pruitt ended this with Donald Trump. It's over, okay? This was a huge change after the Obama administration, which used the EPA to issue volumes of job-killing regulations to mollify environmental extremists. Among its egregious efforts, it utilized sue and settle practices to abuse legal limits on rulemaking and reward ideological allies. Period. You settle, we'll give it to this person. In the first year in change of EPA, Pruitt finalized more than 20 deregulatory actions, saving taxpayers more than $1 billion in regulatory costs. He also ended the sue and settle practices. The agency is rescinding and replacing the ridiculous and onerous Waters of the United States rule. They're replacing the onerous Water of the United States rule. Do you realize that under Obama, the EPA, if you had a mud puddle in your front yard because of hard rains, it could be regulated by the EPA as a pond or a water I forget what it's called. Well, it's called it's actually was called the Agency Rescinding and Replacing Waters of the United States Rule. Yes, as much as a small portion of water, okay, on your property, and acting on President Trump's order to review and overturn Obama's administration's so-called Clean Power Plan. Okay? Barack Obama, this is a little joke, but Barack Obama wanted, the Clean Air Act to make sure cars got over 100 miles an gallon by a certain day. President Trump said it's ridiculous. They had these clean air plans that, they're trying to end coal. They were not giving out new permits for coal miners. They were not giving out permits for mines to continue. They were revoking mining permits. The list goes on and on and on. And as I started to show, there's projects that have green lights now to go forward that have been on the books for years. This is the guy they need rid of. Because if they can get rid of this guy, one, you and I both know, if they can get rid of Scott Pruitt, that they cannot replace Scott Pruitt with an equal or better. Can't do it. It's not out there. Because why? Democrats? No. Republicans don't even have the stomach. They don't have the stomach to replace Scott Pruitt with the right person. Okay? Because by time 2018, which we just talked earlier, rolls around and this election cycle just in November comes around, all right? Just a couple months down the road, you're going to have these environmentalists coming out with signs and pickets and town hall meetings, and Republicans are nervous that they have to kowtow a little bit to these people, a little bit, okay? So you're going to have the share of Republicans, and I haven't seen the list yet, that are going to come out and ask for him to leave and say it's a good idea, maybe he should leave. Second, you're not going to get the Republicans to put the right person back in place. Third, they will not even give the President of the United States confirmation hearings on his appointments as we speak. Fourth, last but not least, I think I've lost track of the number. Let's show Jeff. Okay, Michael Flynn announces plans to retire in April. All right. Michael Flynn, acting deputy administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, revealed Wednesday that his plans to retire after a long and rewarding career at the EPA have decided it is time for me to move on, and so I will be retiring from the agency April 3rd. The Environmental Protection Agency still has, if you go to the EPA, they still have him in the list as deputy secretary. This morning he's still there, although his retirement was supposed to be 2 days ago. And he is a 20-plus, do you have his picture, Mike Flynn? 20-plus year man. This is why they want to get rid of him. And then if he leaves and retires, then Donna Vizian looks to be next in line, a 20-plus year environmentalist, ready to go. They need this guy gone. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I know I'm repeating myself over and over, but the EPA wants this guy gone, and it's because he is draining the swamp. Look, I talked earlier about the Democrats have a plan. You know, as many of us that don't like James Carville, and I can't do my Carville impression. I used to could do a Carville impression. But many of us that don't like James Carville from Louisiana, he understands politics to the point of what gets someone elected. And, you know, all politics is local, and they will lie about anything. I mean, he's down there in Louisiana. It wouldn't be nothing for James Carville to go on CNN Today and say something about a Republican. Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. There's a Republican on the ballot, and there's 3 Republicans come through town, and now we have 4 young ladies that just out of clear blue skies expecting babies. Now, we don't know if that's legitimate or not, but, you know, Republicans came through town last night. Just saying. Now, let's move on to something else. He knew how to just say something, and you're just like, what the heck did he just say? Republicans got, 4 women pregnant driving through town? I know you might think that's off there, but that's how they work. That's how they are. They're going to lie about voting for Nancy Pelosi, and they will. They're going to lie about working for with Donald Trump, and they will lie about it. They're going to lie about the Second Amendment. They're going to. Now, here's the thing. Here's the worst part, and I've only got 8 minutes. I'm not going to say where the Democrats learn to lie, because obviously they're politicians and they basically all lie to you. But the Democrats are just going to flip the lies to get elected that the Republicans did not follow through in their lies to you to get originally elected. Well, what's that mean? I mean, they watched Republicans come out and stand on the stump and say they were going to end Obamacare. They watched Republicans come out and stand on the stump and say they were going to defund Planned Parenthood. They watched Republicans come out and stand on the stump that they were going to, secure the border and deport and build a wall or whatever. They've watched Republicans stand on the stump and lie over and over and then go to Washington, D.C. and just do what they wanted. And you think for 1 minute that the Democrats aren't going to focus local and pinpoint where they're at and figure out the issues in your county and in the legislative map of your state and go out and tell those lies? Oh, you're badly mistaken if you don't think so. I do. Anyhow, tomorrow's Friday. Let me get this clear. Tomorrow is Friday. We'll be at Circuit World in Blue Ridge. All right? Circuit World in Blue Ridge tomorrow morning. We will have the... I want to pull something up, and I know I'm losing track here, but President Trump is going to West Virginia today. All right? And let's just put Trump... I didn't pull it up earlier to... WV, all right? And he's going to White Sulphur Springs, all right? Trump to visit West Virginia. Let's just go there. It's all over West Virginia News, so we'll just take West Virginia Metro News. Trump to visit West Virginia on Thursday. President Donald Trump is scheduled to visit West Virginia on Thursday for an expected roundtable event at the Greenbrier County, White Sulphur Springs. The visit will mark Trump's 4th visit to West Virginia since taking office. And so forth. U.S. Representative Evan Jenkins, Republican of West Virginia, said in a press release Monday evening he was invited to join the president, the 3rd Congressional District, which Jenkins represents, including the Greenbrier. Okay? Now, one other thing that's not getting talked about in the mainstream media that I didn't put any time in today is the Republican that is opposing Joe Manchin, Democrat, will be with Trump today. There'll be a photo op for the Republican candidate, all right, opposing, all right, Joe Manchin in West Virginia will have a photo op with President Donald Trump. That Joe Manchin, I don't know, could be the example that's leading the way for how to lie to the voters for other Democrats to learn from. Period. Okay? Joe Manchin, they're taking it out of the Joe Manchin playbook. You remember when Joe Manchin ran last time as a Democrat? He was very vulnerable. There was chances. Trump wasn't on the ballot, and Trump didn't win West Virginia at this time. And he was very vulnerable at that time, even with Obama. and he went out and he did the commercial of him shooting up the budget. Was it the budget he had that he shot all up or something? Or I don't know what he did, but he had that and he did the commercial. That kindly saved him or pushed him over the top because there wasn't a very strong Republican opponent at that time. But Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, now has a Republican opponent. He has a Republican president. He has a president of the United States that every single county in the state of West Virginia voted for, totally red. He has a totally red state, and his opponent will take a picture today with the President of the United States. I did not want to leave without that because the media will not tell you that that's one of the marked areas that possibly could go Republican and the Democrats could lose a Senate seat. Tomorrow we're at Circuit World in Blue Ridge. Circuit World, Blue Ridge tomorrow, 8 a.m. We're going to have the all-star panel. We're going to have... Ask the Doc. Dr. William Whaley is traveling, so Dr. Raymond Tidman will be with us tomorrow morning. Ask the Doc. And tonight I got a doubleheader of Fannin County baseball. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't know what else we have. We got a little bit of everything going on. What's your weekend like? I have two or three political things. Now, there's something Saturday I got invited to, so I don't know what that is, but every day. Folks, before we end, let me just say this to you. If you're a candidate or you have a candidate in the state of Georgia that regardless of what they're running for, regardless if they're Democrat or Republican, okay? Monday morning, we're going to have our first Democratic candidate on the show, actually in studio, Monday morning. Okay, so our belief here at FetcherNews.com, if you go qualify to run for office, we're doing everything we can to bring all of those candidates to you to let you make your decision on who you want to vote for. So if you have a candidate that we have not interviewed that you want to remind us of and try to get on the show, 706-889-9700, chief@FetcherNews.com. We're not doing them in any specific order, and we're not picking out any certain candidates. Also, we want to leave with you knowing this, okay? If you don't see a candidate in a race, they've not responded, okay? So let's just use the governor's race for Georgia, for example. We have Clay Tippins and Casey Cagle. Tippins' only response was, it's not working for their schedule right now. Casey Cagle's response campaign, we're busy this week, we'll try next week. But we were able to get Brian Kemp immediately, Hunter Hill, and Michael Williams. So I don't want you to think out there that the others were not invited, that we're pushing a certain way. There you go. I'm your host, BKP. We'll be at Circuit World in Blue Ridge tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Take us out of here, Amanda.